Listen, I'm going to ask you something right out of the gate today, and I need you to be brutally honest with yourself. Welcome to This Explainer. We are completely skipping the fluff today because, honestly, your bottom line just can't afford it anymore. This is the Multi-Apping Beginner's Guide for 2026, and we are going to look exactly at how this entire industry has shifted right beneath your tires.
So, let me ask you, how many hours did you actually work last week out there on DoorDash, Uber Eats, or Grubhub? And, more importantly, how much did you actually walk away with at the end of the day? Did you hit your goals? Or did you just barely scrape by? Look, if your answer sounds anything like, well, I worked 8 solid hours and I made about $90, then I need you to pay very, very close attention to what we're breaking down today. Because that level of payout for that massive amount of your time, that's a losing game, and deep down, you already know it.
For those of you who don't know me, my name is Danelle. I've been a professional career for 13 years, and for the last 4 of those years, I've been running food delivery right on top of my standard courier routes down here in North Florida. I've been behind the wheel through absolutely all market conditions you can possibly imagine. Slow Tuesdays, chaotic holiday rushes, brutal torrential rain days, you name it, the whole shebang. And the single biggest difference I've seen between the drivers who consistently pull in $150 to $200 a day and the drivers who are literally grinding themselves into the pavement for $80, it isn't how hard they work, not at all. It's whether or not they truly understand what we're talking about today, multi-apping.
Right, so let's clear up the massive amount of confusion floating around out there. Multi-apping is simply being active on more than one delivery platform during the exact same shift. Instead of logging into just DoorDash and just sitting there staring at your screen waiting, you're actually available on multiple apps simultaneously. You take the order from whichever one is pinging with the best offer in your area at that exact moment. Now, before you even type the question, yes, it is completely allowed. DoorDash allows it, Uber Eats permits it, you're not breaking any rules, and you aren't risking your account. The platforms just, well, they'd really prefer you didn't know that. They want you totally exclusive, quietly waiting in their specific queue. But the real top earners in this industry, they've been running this for years.
This right here perfectly illustrates the trap of that single app mindset. When you're only earning when an order is actively sitting in your car, you inevitably hit what we call the single app ceiling. See, relying on just one app means every single minute you spend waiting for a ping, sitting in some sweltering parking lot, idling behind a restaurant, burning your own gas, you are technically on the clock, but you are not getting paid a dime. You are capped. The alternative? Having options across multiple platforms simultaneously. If you don't break through that single app ceiling, you are actively making the choice to cap your own daily earnings.
Now, what's really interesting, and frankly, just deeply, deeply disappointing, is the harsh reality of what all that waiting actually looks like. Recent research tracking over 500,000 gig drivers found that single app drivers are sitting in what's called dead time, meaning they are earning absolutely zero for nearly 40% of the hours they are out on the road. 40%, think about that. That is almost half of your entire shift producing zero income. You're out there, away from your family, putting serious wear and tear on your vehicle, and for 40% of the day, your wallet is completely flat. It's exhausting just thinking about it.
And it really just comes down to this. Their algorithm optimizes for their efficiency, not yours. Here is the part that should really sting. The platforms know all about that 40% dead time. Actually, let's be real. They designed the apps this way on purpose. They need drivers available, waiting, and active in the grid so that when an order finally does drop, someone is sitting right there to take it immediately. But they sure aren't paying for that wait time, are they? No, you are. You are the one absorbing the absolute cost of that wait while they keep their internal system running perfectly efficient. And guys, this just builds into an even larger systemic crisis for drivers right now. Because not only are you waiting around unpaid for half your shift, but the actual pay itself has plummeted. Look at this. DoorDash's effective hourly earnings are down nearly 39% from where they were just a few years ago. Uber Eats is down 30%. Grubhub is down over 41%. You are working the exact same hours, driving the exact same roads, battling the exact same terrible traffic, and taking home significantly less than you used to. I really need you to hear me on this. That is not a you problem. That is a massive system problem. And multi-apping is exactly how experienced drivers are working around it.
Which naturally brings us to the most obvious question. If it's totally legal, if it bypasses that single app ceiling we talked about, and if it fundamentally makes you more money, why on earth don't more drivers do it? Why is anyone still sitting out there in 40% dead time? Well, I've talked to countless drivers over the years, and the hesitation almost always boils down to the exact same handful of fears.
It usually comes down to 3 major hurdles for beginners.
First up, they tried it once without any kind of system, and it felt completely chaotic. You get two apps pinging at the exact same time, you completely panic, you don't know which one to accept, you end up showing up late, getting a bad rating, and that stress, it just sticks with you. Second, they are unsure of app prioritization. Look, not all platforms behave the same way. They've got different peak windows, different order patterns, different strong zones in your city. Running all three blindly is just asking for a disaster. Third, and honestly most importantly, there is a total lack of an order acceptance strategy. On one app, it's just take it or don't. But with multiple apps, if you skip building a strategy, you can actually end up worse off than when you started. The multi-apping approach isn't flawed. The system was just missing.
Now this is exactly where your mindset needs to shift, and it needs to shift permanently. You have to stop being an app user and step up to being a logistics operator. See, an app user, they just rely on trial and error. They log into one app, cross their fingers, hope for the best, and basically let a piece of code dictate their entire day. A logistics operator takes complete control. They run a multi-app system. They know their market conditions inside and out. They don't just react to random pings. They manage multiple streams of potential income and strategically choose the ones that absolutely maximize their hourly rate. That mindset shift right there, that is the difference between surviving and actually thriving in this business.
So, if going through this explainer today gave you that sinking feeling of, wait a minute, I've been doing this completely wrong, listen to me. That's actually a really good thing. That realization is your very first step toward fixing it. The next step is understanding the mechanics of how these gig platforms have fundamentally changed. I actually wrote a free guide specifically for drivers called The Gig Pay Crisis, Why Multi-Apping is Necessary in 2026. It covers all the hard data behind the pay decline, it does a deep dive into the dead time problem, and it shows you exactly what the top earners, the true logistics operators, have figured out. The link is right down there in the description. Get it, read it, and digest it before your next shift.
I've also put together a second free guide for you, and this one's called 5 Mistakes That Keep Gig Drivers Stuck Under $100 a Day. If you have been out there putting in the brutal, long hours, burning up your own fuel, and you literally cannot figure out why your numbers just aren't moving up, this guide is going to hit different for sure. Both of these resources are linked right in the description, and listen to me, there is no email required, there is absolutely no catch, no purchase necessary. I genuinely just want you to have the tools you need to protect your own bottom line.
All right, I'm going to leave you with this final, somewhat provocative thought to chew on before you head back out onto the road today. Are you going to keep absorbing their costs, just sitting there in dead time so their algorithms can look perfectly efficient on paper? Or are you finally ready to run a system and become a true logistics operator? Look, the single app approach is running out of road fast. Multi-apping isn't overly complicated, but it absolutely requires a strategy. Grab those guides in the description, stop relying on trial and error, and take back control of your shift. Thanks for joining me for this explainer today, and hey, I'll see you out there on the road. Drive safe.